what we should do, is give the Bills some credit because their offense looked not very good on Sunday against the New England Patriots. There were so many questions about where are they and what are they doing. Last night, even though they should have more than 24 points, last night, Peter, the offense looked a lot better. I'm not ready to say they have a full-fledged identity, but Josh Allen played well. He spread the ball around to more players than Stephon Diggs, and the Bills' offense felt like it was functioning the way that it should.
Yeah, I remember I was just sitting here right now looking at some of the notes I made after last night. At the end of the first quarter, I wrote down, difference in Bills, attack, attack, attack. I mean, that's what they did. That's what they're best at. And look, I have been among those who have said they got to stop running Josh Allen so much. Because in my opinion, it just leads to Josh Allen being 81% in January instead of 96%. Okay? And, but maybe, just like with Deebo Samuel. With Deebo Samuel, you have to just accept the fact that there are going to be some times he's either going to be unavailable or at a significantly diminished physical capacity in a game. Because that's who he is. That's how he plays. So, and I only make this point about Josh Allen and running for a very simple reason, that you've got your franchise quarterback. Don't you want him to last 17 years? I mean, and I think the Bills, in watching Josh Allen in the first half decade of his career, have basically said, we don't think he's going to last 17 years if he plays like this. So let's dial back the running a little bit. And I understand the fans want him to run. Al Michaels even wanted him to run last night, or at least it sounded like, which is fine. But if you do have Josh Allen running the ball, you have to take the consequences of Josh Allen running the ball. And also of Josh Allen not just dumping the ball away. You saw that he hurt his shoulder apparently last night on, when he was running out of the pocket trying to make something happen. And look, you can't put players in bubble wrap. You just can't. They have to play. But I think the way I look at this is right now, Mike, that there is a consequence for everything that you do in the NFL. And here's where he banged his shoulder. There's a consequence for everything you do in the NFL. And if you want him to run, and if you want that attacking mode where everything goes, anything goes, you just have to be willing to accept the consequences.
Well, and this is the basic reality of any quarterback choosing to run the ball and otherwise embrace the risk of contact. The more you get hit, the greater the chance. It's like a lottery ticket. Every hit is a lottery ticket that potentially results in disaster for the team. And the best quarterbacks have none of those lottery tickets. They avoid the hit. You never know which hit's going to be the one. I still have that vivid recollection of Jimmy Garoppolo deciding to drop his shoulder into a Chiefs defensive back at Arrowhead Stadium, Week 3, 2018, and tears his ACL while doing so. Just get out of bounds. Just get out of bounds. Robert Griffin III, his first game with the Browns against the Eagles, instead of just getting out of bounds, drops his shoulder, injures himself, and he's back like 2 months later. Avoid contact. There's nothing wrong. There's no shame in avoiding contact. Last night, as something as simple as Josh Allen being tripped up, can we play that again? I wasn't sure what was wrong with him. His knee, his leg, his arm, because this 6'7", 240-pound guy came crashing down. Bigger they are, the harder they fall. He fell hard just by getting tripped up. Look, there's the left leg. Wait, with the right leg, where am I hurting? Let me see. Oh, wait, I think it's my arm. So and if you're going to embrace it, and you're right, Al made the point, the fans want him to run. Everybody wants him to run. The more he runs, the greater the chance you're going to have something like this. And it's an issue now. Here he is after the game, talking about the shoulder injury that ultimately was detected by what was happening on the sideline. Allen talking after the game about what it means going forward.
Took a little fall on it and just felt a little funky about it, but, just trying to keep it warm and keep it loose. I'll be sore for a couple days, but we'll be fine. So anytime you feel something in your throwing shoulder as a quarterback, alarms are going off in your head of, crap. But something that, again, we'll have to monitor and continue going forward with and making sure we're taking care of it.
Yeah, that's not exactly an everything is fine and will be fine. That's I got through the game, but let's see how this goes. There's a lot of stuff in that shoulder, as we've learned with Deshaun Watson over the past few weeks. Capsules and muscles and rotator cuffs and whatnot. And it doesn't take much inflammation, swelling, whatever, to cause a quarterback to maybe lose a little something. And anybody that's ever suffered an injury at night knows there's a chance by the next morning it's going to feel a little different than it did in the immediate aftermath of the injury happening. And Peter, fairly big game coming up for the Buffalo Bills, if you didn't know. 9 days from today, Sunday Night Football, Week 9. The Bills at the Cincinnati Bengals. Kind of important to have Josh Allen at full strength for that one.
Here's the thing about the future for the Bills, Mike. And look, every team can say, well, this is going to be a rough stretch or this is going to be hard. Okay, but let's look at the Buffalo Bills. And again, we could talk about the emotion of their next game. Basically 10 months after seeing a teammate almost die on that field and the game be suspended, and luckily Damar Hamlin comes back and appears to be absolutely fine now and is back and all that. There's going to be some emotion coming into that stadium and playing that game. But to me, it's not just about that. If you look at the schedule that the Bills have in the last 2 months of this season, November and December leaking into January, it's phenomenally difficult. Just look at it. At Cincinnati, the Jets at home. The Jets have something on this team, and it's not good, And then Philadelphia at home. Philadelphia on the road. Kansas City on the road. Dallas at home. Closing at Miami on January 7th. And I mean, look, a lot of teams are going to have tough schedules down the stretch. Miami's is not easy. The AFC East has a tough schedule this year. However, I just look at this team and I just say, they better get their offense right because they're going to have to score a bunch of points to win even half of these games.
And Peter, every game until Week 17 against the Patriots, every single one of them is primetime or 4:25 p.m. Eastern, big spotlight
or a doubleheader game. Yeah.
So there's that Saturday night Peacock game, primetime. So everything is standalone or the prime game in the 4:25 p.m. Eastern window, which 20 million plus watch every single week. So there's going to be a lot of scrutiny of everything the Bills do. There's nowhere to hide. You can't tuck yourself in the range of 1 o'clock Eastern games. It's a lot easier to have a bad game when you're one of 7, 8, 9, 1 o'clock Eastern games. When you're 4:25 or prime time, everyone notices when things don't go well. And they went well last night until they almost didn't. But it did work out. As we mentioned, ball gets spread around to a bunch of different guys. Gabe Davis caught 9 passes for 87 yards and a touchdown. Khalil Shakur, 6 catches for 92 yards, a career high for him. Stephon Diggs only had 70 yards on 9 catches, but they're spreading the ball around. And Dalton Kincaid, with Dawson Knox out, comes in with 5 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown. So this is what the Bills need to do. It can't just be Josh Allen running around with his hair on fire waiting for Stephon Diggs to get open 50 yards down the field. You have to have some way to move the ball consistently to set up your shot. And on a night like last night, if the shot doesn't come, you're still moving the ball well enough with the other guys to score enough points to win, Peter.
There's one other thing I would say, Mike, that strikes me as really kind of interesting. So over the last 16 quarters, last 4 games, the Bills are 2-2. They've outscored the opposition by 2 points collectively in those 4 games. And so the Bills are no steamroller. And I'm not trying to give them style points on any win. But just imagine if Chris Godwin were looking for the ball last night and actually caught it. That would mean the Buffalo Bills would be 1-3 and would have been outscored in their last 4 games. It's just, you just get the feeling that the Bills are still really trying to find themselves. And if I were them, and you might say, you can't play tempo, you can't play attack the entire game. I would respect that, but I would also say, okay, if you can't play it the entire game, play it 2/3 of the game. Because clearly that was when the Bills were at their best in this game last night. And with a smart, aggressive quarterback who makes good decisions, Josh Allen, and I don't care what the turnover numbers say. I trust him to make good decisions. With a smart quarterback who makes good decisions, I like playing tempo. I want to put the ball in his hands. It reminds me of Jim Kelly in the no huddle. I want Jim Kelly to have the ball in his hands. I want him to be the decisive factor in these games. So to me, if I'm the Bills, if I'm Ken Dorsey, I go into, look, Sean McDermott, my guess is coaches are in today, and then they have 2 days totally off. Good for them. They should have that on this mini bye. But if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm ducking my head into Ken Dorsey's office this morning, and I'm saying, hey, let's play more tempo. Let's go fast. That's when we're at our best.
And when you look at their schedule, we looked at it forward. I want to peek back a little bit. After that weird week 1 Aaron Rodgers Monday night Jets game that the Bills lost in overtime, they were dominant. They were in overdrive for 3 straight weeks. Week 2, 38-10 win over the Raiders. Week 3, 37-3 victory at Washington. Yeah. Week 4, 48-20 over the Dolphins. And then they went to London. And since London, it's 2-2 and could be 1-3 or even 0-4. The 2 wins were the Giants hold on to your butts, the Giants might win this game moment. And then last night, which I think as Bills fans reflect on it a little bit more, they'll realize how close it was to becoming a loss. The Giants game felt throughout like, man, they may lose this. Last night's game, once they woke up, when it was 10-0 and the Bucs tied up 10-10, once the Bills snapped out of that, it never felt like they were going to lose. But when you reflect on it, they could have lost that game. They could be 1-3 or over 0-4 over the last 4 games. And it's not the kind of momentum that you want to carry, to your point, into this gauntlet that they're about to run from now until the Chargers game week 16. That's the next game on the schedule that I would look at and say, Bills definitely should win that one. Every game between now and then, I look at it and I say, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't either. And look, one of the things that's fun about the NFL this year, Mike, is I think we could look at the Buffalo Bills and we could look at, let's take this brutal schedule that they have coming up. And let's just look at Cincinnati, the Jets, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Dallas. Okay? That's 5 games where you just say, quite honestly, they could win or they could lose. Neither result would surprise me in the least. Okay? So that's 5 games. They could go 4-1, they could go 1-4. And so to me, I look at the Bills right now, and I think it's essential that they do what they do best. You know what really impressed me last night? This little wide receiver that we've never heard of, Shakir, and the tight end who was drafted to become the offensive tight end, a depth piece along with Dawson Knox, who would obviously Dalton Kincaid. And those two guys were huge in the passing game last night. I love the fact that they relied on two guys who, before this year you never heard of, in Buffalo anyway. And I really appreciate the fact that Josh Allen is looking for everybody. He's not myopically looking for only Stephon Diggs with, if Diggs is doubled, I'll go to Gabe Davis. Last night they had two big tight end injuries, and they were still really good and effective in the passing game because Josh Allen looked at everybody. And that's what a good quarterback does.
And that's what they're going to need to do. Peter, look, we just assume the Bills are going to be there when we get to January because they've become a fixture in the postseason. With the schedule that's coming up and the standings as they currently are configured, with 3 losses, that puts them in a cluster for the last spot in the playoff party. They're 1 loss behind the Dolphins for the AFC East lead. They are 1 loss behind the Steelers and the Browns for the 5th and 6th seeds, and they're at the same number of losses as the Jets and the Texans for the last spot in, and the Bengals. It makes next week's game fairly important because that's what you got to look at. You got to look at losses, especially this time of year where some teams have played 8, some teams have played 7, and that's the one thing I like about the buys. I can't keep it all straight. Look at the losses. How many losses can you get away with before you are in, oh crap, we got to win every game from here on out mode? 3 can become 4. For one of these teams, and the Bengals may get their 4th loss on Sunday in Cincinnati, creating an even greater urgency to beat the Bills next week. You get to 4, you get to 5 before Thanksgiving, Peter, you're getting closer and closer to the postseason begins with 5 weeks left of the regular season, because if we lose any of these, we're done.
Yeah, well, I would look at it in a different way. That, yes, the Bills have 3 losses. They've also got 2 more wins than the Bengals have, than the Jets have, because they've played 2 more games. So you can't eliminate that. They're in a hugely advantageous position when it comes to comparing them to the Bengals. You know why? Because the Bengals' next 2 games are at San Francisco and at Buffalo. And if the Bengals sweep those 2 games, my name is Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Okay, so
be careful.
I would just
be careful.
look at all
Be
this.
careful. Don't promise to retire. Don't do that.
I didn't.
Don't want to have to do what Mad Dog did. I know.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I know. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I wouldn't. I would never do that.
I love Mad Dog,
especially in baseball. But all I'm saying is that, what odds would you get in Vegas right now for the Bengals? Because I'm curious, and I don't bet. I don't know, but I would assume that you could make a bet right now on the Bengals going 2-0 in the next 2 weeks. And I'm serious. I would seriously ask this question. What would the odds of that be? Like 8-1? I don't even know. And I don't know all the plus and minus and all that. Tell me what you think they would be.
I don't know, because that's not my thing. I just repeat the odds that others formulate and put on the screen. But, Peter, they are at home for the Bills game. They're not in Buffalo. So that changes it a little bit. Not that home field advantage means a whole lot this year.
Yep.
But to not have to go to Buffalo in prime time is a good thing if you're the Bengals. You get them to come to you.
Yep.
But you're right. 2-0. The chances of them going 2-0, even though I do think they're going to win on Sunday, we'll probably talk about that game coming up. The chances of going 2-0, not great. And I agree with you. They've got the 2 extra games. They've got the 2 extra wins, but the losses are the things to watch. And when you look at that schedule that you pointed out, there are losses lurking for the Bills. And the question is, how many can they get away with over this gauntlet that's coming up with the Chiefs and the Bengals and the Cowboys? How many can they get away with? And the Eagles, how many can they get away with? Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.